All right, welcome into the 573 report. Gabe, DeArmond, and Mitchell Forde here with you guys. This is a special signing day edition. It just so happened that it fell on Wednesday when we do the show anyway, so we wanted to start a little early. We had planned to get here at 6:30. Eli Drinkwitz's press conference just ended, at like 5:55. I had to get that video all uploaded, so we're a few minutes late, but appreciate you being here. Mitch, fortunately, it has not been a long day at all for us.
Yeah, it started a little early. Really, in hindsight, it didn't need to get up as early as we did. Most of the signatures came in around to like noon to 2, but that's all right. This really is nothing compared to the signing days of old, so we can't complain.
Yeah, exactly. So Missouri signs 21 guys. 20 of them we expected to sign. We expected Missouri to sign today. EJ Ndoma Ogar, I think I'm saying that name correctly, the offensive line transfer from Oklahoma, was also added to that group. Shamar Pearl and BJ Harris did not sign today. We don't exactly have clarity from Eli Drinkwitz on what's happening there.
No, I asked him in his press conference today if he expected any more signatures during this early signing period, because it does technically run through Friday, and he basically said, I don't know, we're always trying or something like that. But he did not say we have one or two more guys who are going to sign. He was a little bit unclear there.
Yeah, so look, we can't say for sure. They didn't sign today. We think there are still plans for Missouri to attempt to sign them. Maybe not, obviously not today, maybe not this week. We'll see. But just, either way, it is the 20th ranked recruiting class on Rivals.com. Missouri's never had that before. And, I kind of like Drinkwitz's answer, and his video is on our site right now. You can watch that. I prefer you would watch this show first, but you can watch that when you're done. But I was impressed with his answer. Like, he didn't dodge it, he did give the kind of, stock. I try not to pay too much attention to rankings, but he did say, hey, we want to do something that's never been done here before. And if they keep track of rankings, basically, you want to be as high in those rankings as you can. So I thought he gave a good answer there.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of expected him to just be like, oh, I hadn't paid attention to the rankings, but he embraced it a little bit. He mentioned that Missouri had 4 stars in the last 4 classes combined and 5 this year, which means he pays attention to Rivals, because it was our rankings that had Missouri as having 5 4-stars. 24/7 had him was 4, so we appreciate the business. It was kind of refreshing to hear him say that.
Yeah, and, he talked about a lot of the individual signees, and we will actually have 2 of those guys on this show later on. In about half an hour, East St. Louis quarterback Tyler Macon is supposed to call in, and at about 7:30, defensive tackle Makai Wingo is supposed to call in. So he was the defensive player of the year in Missouri this year and Missouri's first commitment. So we hope to talk to both of those guys about signing day and just a really weird recruiting process and all that. We're going to have Sean Williams on here probably in about 10 minutes. But overall, Mitch, there's not a Missouri fan who can be even like slightly disappointed. This day and this recruiting cycle has gone, I think, about as well as Missouri possibly could have hoped.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Like you said, first of all, they've never ranked 20th, and the class isn't over. They might, end up getting passed by 1 or 2 spots, but still, it's right about the best class Missouri's ever had. Got a ton of in-state guys, 6 from the state of Missouri plus 2 from East St. Louis, so 8 regional guys, which is obviously a big point of emphasis. Basically, filled up pretty much every area of need early. I think, they're probably going to take another offensive lineman. They'll probably take another wide receiver, maybe a defensive back. But, you're not left with any gaping holes going into the late period. I think getting Dominic Levet on board was big in that regard. So, yeah, Missouri fans, I think, a lot of times are used to it. I saw this a little bit today. When it comes down to it's a guy's got Missouri and a few others, and he's announcing on signing day, or like with the Dominic Levet situation, it's not going to be Missouri, is it? I know they're involved, but we don't win these type of things. And Drinkwitz seems to have won more than he's lost of these it's coming down to a decision, and Missouri is one of the ones involved type of situations.
For sure, the Arden Walker situation, and that was kind of the way signing day always is. The announcements on signing day tend to kind of steal the show, right? Because a lot of these guys, a lot of these guys have been committed since June, so it's a little bit anticlimactic with the way recruiting is covered. So Arden Walker, 3-star defensive lineman, edge rusher, outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him, from Cherry Creek in Colorado, was down to UCLA, Missouri, and Colorado. And like we had heard in the last 24 hours, legitimately, UCLA, it's not going to be UCLA. Then it's not going to be Colorado. Then I don't think it's going to be Missouri. We'd heard all those things. We didn't even know how he was announcing. He announced on Instagram Live, and then it popped up on Twitter that he chose Missouri. His dad played football at Colorado with Ryan Walter's dad, and Drinkwitz said he went to bed not feeling good last night because they tried to call him and weren't able to talk to him.
Yeah. It was actually, it was interesting. He found out the same time all of us did when Walker announced, and he said Brick Haley and Ryan Walters told him to keep the faith, but he took a more pessimistic attitude. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, I think Makai Wingo was definitely somewhat involved in selling Arden Walker on Missouri. So we'll definitely ask him about that when we get to chat with him here shortly.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that really stood out to me about this class is just that they had guys recruiting other players really throughout, not just in-state players, but all over the country. And I think it was a little easier this year because recruiting was pretty much everybody just did recruiting online and through text messages this year and FaceTime. That was the only way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's, I give credit to this staff for adapting for sure, especially, when they had all the, challenges of actually coaching the team on the field in their first season, most of them first season here with everything that was going on. But also, in a sense, like Drinkwitz pointed out, they were able to get recruits from North Carolina, Florida, California, Indiana, all these places you don't see a lot of. Well, that's because local schools didn't have a huge advantage unless, you had someone who grew up going to a place a lot and was intimately familiar with it, back before March. Right. So I thought that was something I hadn't thought of before today, but it kind of made a lot of sense that maybe there was more of a national flavor to some of these recruitments.
And that was one of the questions I kind of wanted to ask Drinkwitz about. Did it allow you to go to Colorado and some places you'd never been? But look, guys, the worst part about the kind of online interviews this year is, I think we got a combined 5 questions into Drinkwitz, which is actually pretty good. There were only about 20 total, and we got 5 of them. But in the past on signing day, we're there. You're doing the press conference with the head coach, but you're getting a breakout with every assistant. Like, we used to ask every coach about the position coach about every player in the class, and we'd publish that every year. And there's obviously just no way to do that this year. You've got to pick and choose. Hey, okay, here are the 2 or 3 things that I think are most pertinent that haven't been asked. So let's talk about that. I want to get to a couple of your questions before Sean Williams dials in here in about 3 minutes. Ed wants to know, hard to know for sure, but at this point, how many spots on scholarship do they still have? 5 to 7, I think, is the ballpark, Mitch.
Yeah. So it depends how you want to consider, the 2 guys who didn't sign today, B.J. Harris and Shamar Pearl. If you consider them still committed, then I think they have room for 4 to 6 more spots. But if you remove them from the mix, then you're looking at more like maybe 6 or 7. So yeah, I think I would say I think we expect them to end around 28, 29. They have 20 signed, 22 committed right now, I believe. So yeah, that's a roundabout way of answering your question because it is a little bit confusing. Also, Drinkwitz said that Zeke Powell counted towards this class today, so maybe that decreases or messes with our math by 1 spot. It's a mess.
Right. They know we don't, to be honest, where everybody ranks. And I want to address this real quick. Jake Edwards is asking about Eli Drinkwitz's 5-minute response to my final question. So, look, if you haven't seen the video, if you didn't watch watch it on SEC Network, this might be a little over your head, but hopefully you'll catch up to it. Basically, the last question I asked Eli Drinkwitz was about today's transfer ruling by the NCAA, and he didn't know what I was talking about. And the way I understood that, and Mitchell, I think the way you understood it going into the press conference, the way it was worded, we believed that anyone who transferred this year in any sport was going to get a waiver, a blanket waiver, that term was used by the NCAA, to play next year. So I asked Drinkwitz that, and he answered the question and gave a great answer based on that premise. Well, after the press conference now, it's come to our attention that that's not accurate, that basically I misinterpreted the way it was written. This is for kids this year, this school year. So like basketball players that have already transferred, I guess theoretically baseball players who would want to transfer for the spring. But basically it's not going to apply to football players who have transferred this year playing next year. The way it was worded when I asked the question, I thought that was the case. So it doesn't greatly change a lot of what Drinkwitz said. He gave a good answer and all that, but he did answer a question based on my interpretation of that ruling, which appears to not be correct at this point. And I actually, right when we started this show, got a text message from somebody in the Missouri Athletic Department who is, when this show's over, I'm going to call and they're going to explain the ruling to me a little bit better. It just didn't time out right that we just started this show. So I kind of want to address that for anybody that does watch that video. Dr. Sanitary wants to know, where does our class rank in other conferences compared to the SEC? I haven't gone and looked. I assume they would be third in the Big 12. I would assume they're no better than fourth in the Big 10 because they're right behind Nebraska, and I know Michigan and Ohio State are higher. I know Oregon and USC are higher, but it wouldn't rank eighth in any other conference.
Yeah, for sure. Just wanted to circle back to your Drinkwitz point real quick. The one thing I will say, while that may not be the case yet with the blanket waiver, that is almost certainly going to get passed in January. So just like forget he said those quotes today and revisit them when that happens.
So maybe I was prescient. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and also, look, I think it's fair for like these kids who didn't get to take a single recruiting visit. Some of these kids who signed today are going to be setting foot on Missouri's campus for the first time ever next summer. And yeah, what if they get here and figure out I made a bad choice because I didn't have all the information? I think they should be able to transfer. I also understand Eli Drinkwitz's feelings on it and the hesitation of coaches to embrace that. But we're obviously getting a little off track. Floyd's wanting to know how many preferred walk-ons there were. I don't have a clue, to be honest. I mean, it just, this day is focused on the scholarship players, and we kind of retweak the preferred walk-ons and figure it out in fall camp, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you can add preferred walk-ons, like after the signing period. It's not like we have a final cap on that or anything, so.
Right, for sure. So Dalton says hey, I see Sean Williams is here. So Sean, we'll get to you in just a minute. I didn't realize you had jumped on, but Dalton Barker's on his third margarita, which that's pretty solid for a Wednesday night, man. Good job, Dalton. Good job making the call on Arden Walker. So, okay, so we're going to switch over. I want you to stick with us here. I'm going to add Sean. And I'm going to take away whatever this blank screen is here, and I'm going to see what that does. Okay, there's Sean. I'm going to do my best to get him actually in the frame. Let's see what we can do there.
Power of technology.
Yeah, I don't know. There's Sean in the frame. Sean Williams, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mitchell, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, this is amazing. Like,
fantastic.
We have managed to put together a three-way Skype call, and I frankly think like we're done. This is it. This is the height of what this show is going to be. So,
see you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Sean, for stopping by. But I wanted to bring Sean on because, look, he's the guy that talked to these kids all year and covered most of this class. So, Sean, we were talking a little bit about how these kids all seem to really recruit each other on Twitter. And I mean, Makai Wingo's recruiting Arden Walker out of Colorado. So do you get the sense that that's any different than any other class you've covered in the last few years?
Yeah, I think so to a degree. I mean, I think last year's class, you could say Brady Cook and some of those in-state guys last year were really helpful in recruiting other guys. But yeah, I mean, you talk to a lot of these guys in this class, and they always say, hey, I hear from it's either Tyler Macon, Makai Wingo, Ryan Horskamp. Heard Connor Tollison's name mentioned as well. So a lot of those in-state guys near the St. Louis area, always kind of in other target tiers and things like that. So I mean, talking to Makai Wingo, I did a story on him yesterday, and he said, he was pushing for Arden Walker pretty hard, and talked to Arden just probably a couple hours ago, and I said, hey, who was talking to you the most? He said Makai Wingo. He was. He mentioned Tyler Macon too, Kyra Montgomery. So those are the three guys he specifically mentioned. Arden did, just guys he was communicating with throughout the process, trying to get him to swing to Missouri. So, but yeah, he likes Arden. Just going back to him, I mean, he really likes the relationship with Makai, and obviously they're both going to be probably defensive linemen. So just the opportunity to play with them and play along the D line, so a pretty appealing thing. But obviously the relationships went a long way too. I mean, Arden's been familiar with Missouri since he's been in the 8th grade, I think. I think that's when he first came in camps at Missouri. So, he's pretty familiar with the program. Obviously, he's got ties there with his father playing with Ryan Walters. And obviously, he's got a long-standing relationship with Rick Haley, who was kind of a holdover, too. So it was a big gift for them on signing day. It's always nice to have those, add a little excitement to signing day.
Yeah. Sean, this is something I know we've talked about before, but I know a lot of the people watching this might not, follow recruiting as closely as we always, are reporting on it. Obviously, a big thing is always keeping in-state guys home, and that was something Eli Drinkwitz talked about quite a bit today in his signing day press conference. When you talk to players and coaches from the state and particularly from the St. Louis area, what has Eli Drinkwitz done maybe differently to prioritize those guys?
Communication. That's big. It's not just it wasn't just Isaac Thompson's head coach, but it's other coaches I've talked to, other players. But talking to Isaac Thompson, of course, I know he's 2022, but covering his recruitment, talking to Mike Jones, he said, hey, look, when Drinkwitz took over, the first priority they did was just make phone calls to all the in-state kids, all the in-state coaches. He said, even when coaches call Drinkwitz, he'll call them back within 24 hours. So he said that's huge, whereas in the past that might have not happened, might have been gone avoided. So communication's been big, and being consistent with that communication's the big thing. So,
Sean, just you followed this class all year. Look, we knew going in they were theoretically, before COVID meant that everybody gets to come back and rosters are going to be 712 people next year, that they were going to be losing 8 defensive linemen. I think they've added 6 or 7 already to this class. So that position group specifically, it's a really hard position to jump in and play in the SEC. But what do you think kind of stands out about the group of linemen he brought in?
Well, it's like you said, there was a lot of them, but they really, they really needed them, obviously, for depth and considering who may or may not come back. But, they got some good pieces. You talk about a couple 4-stars and Kyra Montgomery, who's the highest rated kid in the class. Travion Forde as well out of St. Louis. But, they also added some JUCO talent. I know we're kind of wondering what Shamar Pearl's going to do. Obviously, kind of a blast from the past, who was committed out of high school. But, they Adam Realis Jones and a guy like Daniel Robledo, who not a lot of people know about him just because he's hanging out there in California, but his coach talked really highly of him, in terms of Brick Haley really liking his versatility. And I think that's something they kind of wanted in this class, is versatile lineman. I think every time a defensive lineman committed, everybody's like, well, is he going to be a D tackle? Is he going to be a D end? Here's the thing. I think Missouri's kind of cool with getting these kids that can play either or. Obviously, size-wise, I think a guy like Realis Jones is going to play inside. Robledo might play inside or outside, and the rest can go with the rest of these commitments too. So versatility was a big thing for the defensive linemen in this class, just talking to the players, the coaches, and everybody else involved.
Yeah, that was definitely something Eli Drinkwitz touched on today. Is just recruiting measurables and potential, and then having guys grow into defensive line spots. Obviously one of the big headliners in this class, especially at the time he committed, was Dominic Lovett, East St. Louis wide receiver. He's Missouri's only receiver commit in this or signee in this class as of right now, and he comes to campus with his quarterback as well. I mean, I don't know how much you've gotten to see him play, but do you have a sense for kind of what Mizzou's getting in him?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really just aside from video and his highlights, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what Josh Elmo said. Whenever you look at his highlights, he's kind of a smaller receiver, so maybe he'll be more of a slot guy. Could be a guy that can line up outside too, just depending on what the matchups are. But I think the cool thing about it is you kind of see what kind of junior year he had with Macon, and then in their East St. Louis state title run. So I mean, to put up monster numbers, I mean. He had over 1,500 yards receiving, and all that came from the arm of Macon. So I think people were really excited about that combo and it coming to Missouri and, seeing that continue on a college level.
All right. So, Sean, you've done this long enough. The class of 2021 is old news. People don't care about these guys. They signed. We're all done. So we've got questions that want to know, how do you think Missouri stands with Luther Burden and with Tyson Forde, who actually just said he was going to announce a decision, I think, January 18th. So we're already on to 2022. What do you think?
Hey, guys, can I have a drink? I mean, jeez.
I mean, sometimes we drink on this show, so you could have a drink right now. It's fine.
I got to go walk to the fridge, and that would require me to get off the headset here, so
yeah.
I can do it mobily, though, so... Tyson Forde, I mean, I think Missouri's in the mix. I don't know, how much they're in the mix. I know obviously a lot of schools are being talked about, like Texas and schools like that. Oklahoma, I think, has been mentioned a lot. So I think they're in the mix, though. I mean, he's a guy they really want. So I think they're definitely in his ear, and I think they'll probably be in it to the end. Luther Burden, that's another guy that's a hot topic, and it kind of came up when Dominic Lovett switched his commitment. And I mean, look, I know he's committed to Oklahoma, but he's a 2022 kid. Missouri's going to keep talking to him, and keep pushing him. So I think it's a good chance he could flip. But I mean, it's way too early to tell with those guys right now. But I mean, I know with Forde, I think they're kind of on the outside looking in right now, if I was just to say, but. They're definitely going to keep pressing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Real quick, back to this year. We talked about defensive line. People seem to be worried about offensive line. When we talked to Drinkwitz, he said they're good. We could take maybe one more, but he seemed happy with what they've got right now, numbers wise.
Yeah, I think when you look at that, they got Tollison early, and of course they added EJ in Domo. Ulgar.
Yeah, we just guess at the pronunciation.
Yeah,
we're not sure.
EJ.
Yeah, we'll just call him EJ. How about that? But I mean, that's good. I mean, when they had Tollison for so long, I mean, we're all kind of thinking maybe they'll take two more at the most. So I mean, they got EJ late as a transfer. Maybe they'll get another kid that's a high school senior that film they really like. Probably go the transfer route though. Is probably my thinking, but. I think they're really good. I mean, they like Tollison. That's a kid that Oklahoma and Alabama was recruiting pretty hard at the time he committed to Missouri. He just wanted to stay home. So that was a big get for them just in terms of recruiting momentum. And then, EJ was familiar with Missouri back when he was in high school. He took an unofficial visit to Missouri when I think heading into between his junior and senior year. So he was a guy that was already familiar with the program. So. It's good gets. I mean, if they got one more guy, they've look. The transfer portal is hot right now, so there's plenty of options in there.
Yeah, that has definitely changed the way people recruit, the transfer portal. Question here I'm seeing from Floyd: what do you see as the other areas of need that maybe are addressed via either the transfer portal or the recruiting trail this offseason?
Yeah, I listened to you guys when you started. I mean, I agree with you. Add another offensive lineman, probably get another DB or two. We kind of talked about Jadarius Perkins, the JUCO kid. I know he didn't announce where he was going today. He's going to do that on Christmas and ruin all our Christmases. But if he commits to Missouri, but you got a feeling if he's going to announce where he's signing in December on the Christmas, he probably signed somewhere today and just isn't going to wait and announce it. That's just kind of my hypothesis there. But another DB or two, another offensive lineman, and I mean, hey, they're probably I don't know how that roster's going to look and who's going to maybe opt out, not come back. I mean, I think it's all kind of in limbo right now, and you'll you'll probably have more clarification after the season's officially over. But yeah, there's plenty of options in the transfer portal you can kind of reach into and see if you can get, just in terms of positions you need and explosive players too that you think you can add that can contribute right away.
And that's the new thing with recruiting. Like, yeah, you sign somewhere, but you're going to announce it a week in the future, a month in the future,
right.
Whenever it happens. Trajan Jeffcoat a couple years ago signed with Missouri in December and he wasn't going to tell anybody until February, and then I happened to get him on the phone, and he told me, and I think Trajan just wasn't super familiar with the recruiting process and doing a lot of interviews, and when I wrote that, it turned out I'm not sure he super wanted it out, but he had told me, so whatever, he signed, and has turned into a pretty good player for Missouri. The best thing to come out of today's press conference, and Connor Tollison saw it and retweeted it, Drinkwitz said about Connor Tollison, quote, he's got the right kind of demeanor and he's got a really bad haircut. If you combine all those things, then you've got yourself an offensive lineman in the mold of Case Cook. And Connor Tollison just retweeted it with a wow. But Sean, have you had a chance to see him in person? Because I know that Missouri fans think, and they may very well be right, I don't know, but they think he's by far the most underrated guy in this class.
Yeah, actually, I did. First game of their season, Fort Sunwalt West, I believe. There's a lot of Fort Sunwalts around there. Direction of Fort Sunwalt School. But yeah, he looked really solid, and there was a couple of reps where he maybe lost his footing a little bit, tripped. But I mean, hey, first game of the season, kind of chalked that up. And he's got really good upper body strength. And I think he could maybe just, and it might have been competition too, maybe have a little bit of quicker feet just in terms of pass protection, things like that. That maybe something he needs to improve on. But overall, just the way he run blocks and is kind of a road grader for the running game on his team was really impressive. So, yeah, I was really impressed with him, and really good kid to talk to. I think we did like about a 7-8 minute video interview after the game. So he was really super excited about Missouri. And like I said, he's been one of the like, 4 or 5 guys that, has been recruiting pretty hard for this class too.
Sean,
I will say about the haircut, Case Cook's is definitely a lot worse than Connor Tollison's. Connor's just got the long flowing hair right now. So I don't think he has the mullet long hair. So with the Kentucky waves behind it. So
Cook didn't have it, I don't think, when he came to Missouri, so there's still time for Tollison. But, one of the things that Eli Drinkwitz touched on in his press conference today that, I kind of think is actually kind of an underrated storyline in this class is not only did Missouri go to Indiana, which is, not a place you really associate with Missouri recruiting, and get 2 kids, but 2 4-star kids, including their highest-ranked kid in the Rivals rankings, and Kyron Montgomery. It's a top 250 kid. Do you have a sense for, how that connection came about? I know Drinkwitz today credited DJ Smith, the linebacker coach, who has some ties in the area. But,
right.
I mean, when you talk to those guys, what was kind of some of the factors that went into that?
Yeah, DJ Smith. I mean, that was kind of the big factor. I'm not really sure what his ties to the area is specifically, but I know, that's an area where he recruits and, initiates contact and everything like that. So that was the name that both those guys brought up just in terms of building a relationship initially and things like that. So, and then obviously, it goes from there. But yeah, DJ Smith's kind of the one that extended offers and kind of started building that bridge for both of those guys. So it's done a good job. And we've seen it. They targeted other top guys in the Indianapolis area. They've got like a lot of the Indianapolis's top targets in 2022. They've offered those guys too. So yeah, that seems to be a ground that DJ's familiar with, and they're going to extend a lot of offers out in that area and try to get more kids from Indianapolis to come over.
Yeah, Sean, I'm sure you tune into the show every Wednesday night, so I'm sure you know this. But we talk a lot about hair. Mitchell gets a lot of comments. Dalton is currently insulting. He says I have the mid-50s hairdo going, which I own it. That's all right. I want to let you guys know real quick. I just got a direct message from Tyler Macon. He is still going to join us, but he needs to back it up to 8 o'clock. So we'll have Makai Wingo at 7:30 and Tyler Macon at 8 o'clock, which means we can spend a couple more minutes with Sean because Sean hasn't had a long day at all. He's only been working for like 13 hours. He's got to get off here and get started on the 2024, I think, Missouri in-state rankings for you guys, so everybody knows what's going on. Sean, Jacob is asking reflections on Drinkwitz commitment to Colorado, Missouri, Texas, Illinois, just kind of the geographic breakdown of this class. We were talking before you came on, like, I wonder if in some ways the way recruiting went this year made it easier to be kind of a nationwide deal and go to North Carolina because you weren't flying to North Carolina. All you had to do was FaceTime Damian Wilson, in North Carolina. So.
Yeah, you think about that, which Damian Wilson, they had previous connections with when they were at App State. So, but you think about it, pandemic, you can't travel. You're kind of sitting around in the spring doing nothing because everything's shut down. So that gives the coaches a lot more time to look at film and to look at film of probably guys they never looked at film at before, So there's different areas in different regions of the country you can find guys, and then, hey, you can't travel nowhere. So you're on equal ground with other teams. Just reach out to their coaches, see what's up, and then start building a relationship with those guys. And yeah, really kind of Zoom kind of works out for kind of reaching out nationwide and geographically and grabbing some kids that maybe otherwise you wouldn't never find or never see just because you have a little bit of extra time in that spring. I guess online evaluation area. So, watch a lot of film, find a lot of guys doing that. So it kind of opens up your geographical regions.
Sean, we got to obviously go back to the 2022 discussions because, as Gabe said, 2021 old news. Someone asked here about Toriano Pride, the 4-star defensive back from Lutheran North. You have any sense of where Missouri stands with him at this point?
Really good. Really good. Just talking to him, I actually went to Lutheran North's first game of the season when they played Parkway West. And, of course, Toriano does a little bit of everything for that team. He's cornerback. He's a running back. I think he lines up a wide receiver, returns punts, kicks. But, yeah, he speaks really glowingly of the staff and just his relationship. And, I think that's another thing. You kind of just 2022 class, but this class in particular, you kind of see Drinkwitz. Head coaches, it depends. It's kind of a toss-up how involved they are in recruiting. And Eli Drinkwitz is very, very much involved in recruiting. I mean, in terms of talking to these kids, almost every day, getting on the phone with them. So he's making that effort where you see some coaches maybe take a step back, get involved in the process a little bit later. But, yeah, I mean, from the get-go, Drinkwitz is really on these guys from the get-go, in terms of building relationships, and that's been a big thing. But Toriano Pride, Missouri's in a really good spot with him, I believe.
All right, Sean, last thing, and we'll let you go because you've had a busy day and all that. But you cover recruiting for Vanderbilt. Also, you probably pay as much attention just kind of SEC-wide as – certainly more than Mitchell or I do to recruiting. This is kind of more your day. We just text you and be like, "Who's this kid? What's his story?" And you can fill us in. But I mean, my thought is this is the type of class that Eli Drinkwitz has to start stacking one on top of the other to compete in this league. I mean, Missouri's place in this league isn't ever going to be the top 3 in recruiting, but it needs to quit being the bottom 3, which is where it's been. Do you see this as the kind of class where, hey, if it's a foundation as opposed to an aberration, this is what leads Missouri to be more competitive every year?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, the old saying, I think I can't remember who said it. Was it Barry Switzer? More not about the X's and O's, but the Jimmies and the Joes. So. Yeah, great foundation. Like I said, I mean, just the amount of top talent that they signed, and you just got to keep stacking from there. I mean, you look at the 2022 class; they're already involved with some really top guys, top rated guys. So, yeah, you just keep the train rolling. I mean, and this is a really, you kind of combine this class. It's 20 right now. I mean, that's the highest it's been. I don't know. You guys have been covering ever, yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, what a start for your first, full recruiting class. So you just got to keep getting better off that. I mean, look, it's all about building momentum. So if you're and they're showing that they're good on the football field, looks like they're going to go bowling this year, have a winning record. So that's important too. But when you got a top 20 class on top of that, it shows that you're doing some really good things.
All right, well, Sean, appreciate the time, man. Appreciate the work all year. You get tomorrow off. We need the state's top 40 for 2022 on Friday morning in the chamber.
That's not what the schedule says. I have to write a story for tomorrow. So
I changed. Oh, okay. Well, we still need the top 40 though.
okay, well, next week.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it, man.
Yep. See you guys.
All right. So
Thanks,
Sean
Sean.
Williams, he covers recruiting for us all year long. And look, like I'm not exaggerating. Truly, frequently, Mitch and I will text him and be like, I don't know who this kid is. And Sean does know who he is, which is fortunate for us. He allows us to kind of focus on some of the other stuff. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, Mitch, now you and me, we're done, man. Sean filled everybody in. We can guess at what happens in 2022, and we're good.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know what else people want us to talk about. That he's more informative than we'll be. I don't know. Yeah. If anyone wants to insult us or whatever, I'm sure that's an easy thing to do.
Guarantee somebody does. Do want to mention real quick while we've got a minute that this show every week is brought to you by 573tees.com. You've still got, what's today, December 16th? Time is a flat circle anymore. But, yeah, you got 9 days before Christmas. You go to 573tees.com. I'm not going to promise you your stuff's going to get there by Christmas. I don't know. I can't make promises for them. But you can at least, like, show people, hey, I waited too long to order you something, but here's a picture of what I ordered you on this website. If you go through the show page on our site, you can get a 10% discount off your first order with 573tees.com. So all this stuff that we're doing this year is really only possible because we've had so many people kind of help us out with sponsorships and things like that. They've paid for my home office, basically. This little banner behind me, they might buy Mitch one eventually. But in all seriousness, though, 573 Tees has been great to us. So we hope you guys support them. Support a ton of small businesses this Christmas, but especially the ones who help us out. And 573 Tees is run by a huge Mizzou fan. You follow them on Twitter. You can tell certainly that he is as plugged into he's probably more plugged into recruiting than you and me, Mitch. He's more like Sean than you or I. But get back to some of your questions. Jamal the Don wants to know if there's a reason Love got moved down to a 3-star on the composite, which gives me a chance to say that we don't do the composite. I have heard there is another network that does recruiting coverage. I don't know why you would necessarily subscribe to that one because they don't have 3 people covering Missouri full-time, but if you do, that is certainly your choice. But we don't do that, despite the constant reminders that our rankings are terrible. We have Missouri's class rated much higher than other people who do these rankings. So obviously, at least for 2020, Rivals.com is the best for Missouri.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, usually we are told that Rivals hates Missouri, but this year Rivals is genius. So, and also we have nothing to do with the rankings, by the way, but we'll take credit for it if you want to give it to us.
I gave input to rankings one time in my whole life because they email us and they're like, hey, if you've got any input to rankings, let us know. But it can't just be, I don't know, this. They told me this guy was really good, right? And I don't go and scout. That's not what I do. So the only time I ever gave input to rankings, there was a 3-star signee from Texas in 2005 who I told the people at Rivals, I said, I really think this kid should be a 4-star because he's in the biggest class in Texas and he set all kinds of records. And you just don't put up those numbers if without being pretty damn good. And I know his offer list isn't the greatest. And I know he's going to tell everybody for 10 years he's 6 feet tall, but he's probably more like 5'10 and a half, 5'11. And the direct quote I got back was, Chase Daniel will never play a down at quarterback for Missouri. He will be a wide receiver. So that's the best wide receiver playing quarterback I've seen in quite some time. And I don't do that to call anybody in particular out. Look, everybody's wrong, right? Sometimes we all think somebody's going to be good and they aren't. We predict things every day on the site and we're wrong and people never let us forget it. So I don't blame anybody for being wrong. But the only time I ever actually gave rankings input, I think I was right.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, you should clearly never do it again. Just
right,
retire while you're on top.
One for one.
If anyone ever says anything, be like, I tried to tell you all, and you didn't listen, so yeah. I'm done.
So real quick, and again, we're going to have Makai Wingo here in about 15 minutes. He has responded very quickly to every message that I've sent him, so I fully do anticipate that he's going to going to call in here, and I fully anticipate that, hey, we tested the technology and it actually worked. So hopefully that will continue next time. Take some of your questions, and we can get into some other things. Obviously, today is National Signing Day, and that's the story. But Case says, does someone want to tell Gabe that we're a basketball school now? And like, hey, that's going pretty well too. And Mitch, I know you get to spend Friday night watching Prairie View A&M. So is this the part of the show where you give a detailed scouting report on the Prairie Dogs? I don't know what they are.
I don't actually know their mascot either, which disappoints me.
I'm going to Google it while you're talking,
Aggies.
but I'm going to guess Bears.
I'm guessing Aggies because every A&M school is the Aggies. But anyway, I mean, there's been enough going on this week that, believe it or not, I haven't dove deep into Prairie View A&M. I know they're in the SWAC conference, which is perennially the worst in Division I, and that is all I know about them. I think Missouri should win.
They are the Panthers, which seems intriguing to me because I don't know that I've ever seen a Panther on a prairie.
No, but if you get the double P, the alliteration, that's more important. I mean, when's the last time you saw a tiger in Missouri?
Look, they clearly missed a chance to be the Dogs. I mean, I don't know why anyone
the Prairie Dogs. I agree. That would have been wise.
Much better. So Justin says, I know we don't actually know since this is his first class, but if the ceiling before Drinkwitz was 20th, what is it now, and how good can you be? And look, I want to say, what he has done with this class, I wasn't sure could be done at Missouri, right? I thought the ceiling probably was getting to about 20. You would hope the ceiling isn't in year one, but I think the ceiling in the SEC and in any given year maybe they could get to like fourth or fifth in the league, but like over time, the ceiling is probably seventh unless somehow Tennessee starts having recruiting rankings that mirror the football program it actually is. Then the ceiling would be six.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm hesitant also to like give a definitive ceiling answer because we already have kind of been proven wrong, like you said. And, yes, it's theoretically possible, if he starts, building something here and they start winning big, that just leads to more recruiting success. But it would be it would just go against everything we know to all of a sudden say, Missouri can realistically start landing like top 12 classes or something like that. Maybe it lines up where you can get like a couple 5-stars in state or something like that. But still, if you're in the 20 to 25 range every year, I think that's really good. And you can absolutely get to the point where we've, always said Missouri should be, which is winning like an average of 8 games a year. And every once in a while, maybe you take a step back and it's 6. And then every once in a while, things line up and, you get a senior class that comes together and you win 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And look, I also think that this has obviously been like a year-long honeymoon and everybody loves everything Drinkwitz has done, and you should. I mean, it's been really good so far. I think we need to be open to the possibility that next year could be like a plateau or maybe even a small step back, and that doesn't mean anything bad. But you're talking about a team that's losing probably Nick Bolton, almost certainly Larry Roundtree, Tyree Gillespie, Josh Bledsoe, Damon Hazelton, I don't think probably comes back. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be gone off this team next year. Trey Williams obviously already transferred. And I don't think you can ask this 20th ranked recruiting class to step in and like all be ready to go as true freshmen. So you're always recruiting for a year or two down the road. So I could see year 2 being a little bit more of a leveling off. And then, and I say that without having any idea what the schedule is or anything like that. But I'm just saying, a 7-5-ish type season next year, 7-5, 8-4, maybe being kind of the ceiling, and then see if you can take off when he does get 2 or 3 recruiting classes in here. Because what really was obvious to me when I wrote some things and went back and looked at some things is the recruiting had slipped the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, I don't think there's much question about it.
Yeah, I think it's a common thing with sports fans. You get excited and then, and you just want to project everything as linear and like success is going to be more success. And if he could do this in year 1, imagine what he can do in year 2, imagine what he can do in year 3. And it often doesn't work quite like that, especially because, in any given year, you could have like 6 plays that determine the result of, 3 or 4 games, and you're not always going to win every close game, although he's done a remarkable job of that so far. So, I agree. Even if, next year or the year after or something isn't like this, it doesn't continue this rocket ship trajectory, doesn't mean something's wrong. Even if, the recruiting rankings aren't always 20th, it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong, but, just certainly reason to be optimistic.
I think if he gets in a situation where his team looks like it might lose a close game, he should be like, all right, we got to lose this by like 10 because I've got an immaculate record in 1-score games, guys. So we're gonna need to maybe take a dive here for a couple plays. Floyd is asking, since any player can return due to COVID, do you think Sean Robinson might come back and attempt a position change like wide receiver? First of all, Sean Robinson is not a senior; he's a junior this year, correct? And then would be a junior again next year because this year just didn't exist. So he would technically be able to leave, certainly, if he wanted to, but he has eligibility remaining. And Drinkwitz talked about Robinson on his call yesterday and said that basically Sean Robinson was the guy, and very few people realized this at the time, but he changed numbers from 3 to 12, so that's why a lot of people didn't know he played. Drinkwitz said he was basically responsible for Missouri blocking that punt against Georgia, and just could not speak any more highly of the kid and what kind of a teammate he is and how big a team player he's been after losing the starting quarterback job 5 quarters into the season. Most people probably don't do that.
Yeah, a few things on Robinson. First of all, I didn't realize he played. I noticed at one point he changed numbers. I spotted him on the sideline on Saturday, and I threw it in the little live updates blog, but I know not a ton of people are checking that as the game's going on. I went back and watched the punt after he said that. I think he got a little overexcited. Maybe I missed something, but I think he got a little overexcited in his praise of Sean Robinson and saying that he was responsible for that play, because it looked to me like the Georgia protection was responsible for that play by completely not blocking Mason Pack.
Okay.
But still,
maybe it's because they were all blocking Sean Robinson.
Maybe they were just so thrown off to see him on the field. That could be it. But yeah, I mean, like that is really rare, obviously, for, a quarterback to lose out on the job and then not only stick around through the season in a time when a ton of people are opting out, but volunteer to go play special teams. And I think he might be kind of available as a reserve defensive back if they get low there. I know he was sitting with the defense on the sideline during the game. Will he stay at Missouri next year? I don't know. I mean, like, I would not be stunned, and this is speculation, but I wouldn't be stunned if the staff said, like, hey, thanks for everything you did. Go somewhere you can play quarterback if that's what you want to do. But I still think that wouldn't diminish, what he did, this season. I think is pretty cool.
And because I think transfers get a bad rap of, oh, well, he's not a team guy. Obviously he is. Now, look, it didn't work at TCU, and whether that was his fault or the coaching staff's fault or whatever, but obviously it's worked here better. So Makai Wingo is supposed to be joining us in about 4 or 5 minutes, so I want to get in one more question here from Floyd before we go, because I think this is interesting. Drink should be SEC Coach of the Year. If this season had 4 non-conference games, Mizzou would be going for win number 8 or 9. I agree with the second part of that is true. So I'm going to phrase it this way, Mitch. Does he need to win this weekend to be the SEC Coach of the Year?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think a loss would dampen the luster a little bit. I still think it's really a remarkable and successful season if they lose this weekend, especially given how low they are in bodies. It doesn't necessarily drastically change my view, but if you're going to give someone the Coach of the Year, you don't want to necessarily see them end with, a beatdown loss to Georgia and then a loss to a pretty bad Mississippi State team. I don't know. I was actually thinking about this and talking about this the other day. The obvious candidates are Drinkwitz, probably Jimbo Fisher. Maybe Sam Pittman, but I don't think so really at this point. And then I was thinking though, why can't we just give it to Nick Saban? I know he's got the most talent, but I think that would probably be my vote.
In a year when, Drinkwitz would win the overachieving, hey, you're better than we thought. And at 6-4, I think I'd probably vote for him. If Missouri loses to Mississippi State and ends up 5-5, I honestly think I probably go, you know what? the only guy who got his team through every single thing this year and even won a game when he was on his couch is Nick Saban. And I think I saw a thing a couple weeks ago that said Nick Saban has won more national titles than he has SEC Coach of the Year. I mean, it's like he's penalized for being such a good recruiter, but the thing is, like, recruiting is 75% of the job, so that counts as being a coach.
Yeah, and I get it. It'd be boring if you just, gave the best team the Coach of the Year award every year, and I'm sure he doesn't really care, although maybe he has a clause in his contract about it, so maybe he's bitter. I don't know. But, I mean, I would, I think Eli Drinker's done a great job. I don't know. I'd have to go back and I'd have to sit down and really look at it. I might vote for him, but I mean, I do think it's funny how, like, when you have people have these discussions, like Saban's not even brought up a lot of the time.
And like Jimbo, I can see it. I mean, they're probably going to be 8-1. But this also was kind of the year that everybody said, look, they've got to be second and rise up and challenge Alabama. So that's they were second. I mean, they didn't challenge Alabama. Now, neither did anybody else. So it's not necessarily an insult to them. They've had a good year. They may slide in the playoff just because there aren't, I don't know. I mean, I'd be a little bit surprised if they get in. I think it would take probably Notre Dame beating Clemson, we think, is what would have to happen. And then Texas A&M would slide in because the committee has made it 1,000,000% clear if you play outside of one of the 5 conferences, we are never, ever, ever going to allow you to be part of this thing.
Yeah, and really, are we sure the Pac-12 is ever getting back in? I'm not sure they are. I think it's just the main 4.
I mean, Isn't Oregon like 3-1 and they're playing in the Pac-12 title game this week?
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, but they're playing USC, who it got in over Colorado basically because USC had to cancel the USC-Colorado game, which is a whole other thing. And then USC though is in doubt; they're having some COVID issues or something like that. So there's a chance Colorado could play in the game. So Colorado sent its equipment truck halfway between Boulder and LA to just like be on standby in case they have to travel at last minute to play in the league title game.
So the Pac-12 title game could be between 2 teams that did not win their divisions.
Correct.
This year is awesome. By awesome, I mean obviously completely hideous and ridiculous. But again, like it's better than
it's entertaining.
Yeah,
it's entertaining.
It's better than not playing. We're glad they played. So once again today, National Signing Day. We have tons of stuff on the site about it. You can go check it out. We ran down all the signings. We talked to Arden Walker this afternoon. The video of Eli Drinkwitz's press conference is up. I think Mitch is going to have a story tomorrow about what Missouri may still look to add. But now this is why I think all you guys are here. I just saw new Mizzou signee Makai Wingo popped into the screen. And Makai, Gabe, DeArmond, and Mitchell Forde here. First of all, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good news, man. We're every week we're trying new things and adding new things to this show, and we just mess around with the technology and find out if it works when we get it started. So first thing, I mean, hey, you were the first commit months and months ago, and probably even seems longer because this year has lasted like 12 years in real time. But you finally got to sign today. So what was it like when you got up this morning and sent that letter into Columbia?
It felt amazing. Like, all your work had finally paid off. I got on FaceTime with the coaches. They showed me putting my name up on the board and all, and, it felt amazing.
Makai, I know I talked to you about this a little while back for a story, but obviously wanted to go ahead and reiterate, you're the first person to commit to this new coaching staff. What made you pull the trigger when you did?
Just when I took the visit, loved the facilities, the weight room and all the coaches. And, when I met Coach Drink, when I went up there the first time, it was a few recruits up there, but he made me a priority, like he really pushed the issue for me to jump in early and get it done.
And then you really, you were on Twitter, you and Tyler Macon and a few other guys, you were really busy recruiting other dudes. And, you pulled through today and got Arden Walker. When did you know that Arden Walker was coming to Missouri?
I found out when everybody else found out. I texted him last night. It was like, so your mind made up? He was like, yeah, bro, I'm going to just let everybody know tomorrow at 9. I'm like, okay. And I wasn't so sure about it last night, but, I had been on him for a long time, and we had made a good, relationship, so I figured we had happened, though.
How did you kind of make that relationship with him out in Colorado and you in St. Louis? Is that just all online?
Yeah, just hitting him up. We talk almost every day, just about everything, Obviously, we share football connection. They won their state championship and we lost ours, so that was something we talked about, just making them feel like family, basically.
I'm curious, you're Makai, you're talking to a guy out in Colorado who you don't really know personally every day. I guess how many other of these players in this signing class were you really talking with frequently and talking through kind of their decision?
Kyron, I was talking to Kyron a lot before he committed. Dan, you are D tackle or DN, whatever. I was hitting him up, but I think out of all of them, I had the best relationship with Arden. Like, we clicked the most.
So, look, there's like 6 or 7 defensive linemen in this class. You're talking about all these other guys you got to know. So, I think a lot of people look at a recruiting class and say, you don't want too many guys at your position. But also, there's a thing where, like, good players want to play with other good players, right? You want to get as many good players so you can come win games in Columbia.
Oh, for sure. I want guys that we can compete with each other in practice. You want to compete to get on the field. And when you look to your left and right, you want a guy that can do what you do on the field too. So, for sure.
Makai, I know from talking to you before, obviously your coach, for people who don't know, Robert Steeples, played at Missouri, has ties to the program, but he almost was not trying to talk you out of your commitment, but he was like the wet blanket at first when you told him, hey, I want to commit to Missouri. Walk people through that, what all he said and why you talked him into letting you go ahead and pull the trigger when you did.
All right, so I took the visit. First off, I had no plans of committing to Mizzou at all. Took the visit, I think, January 18th. Went down there, loved everything. On the way back, I texted him. I'm like, I think this might be the place. He was like, slow down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still got some more visits set up. Because I had a visit to Arkansas set up the next week. He was like, take your visits. Are there any other schools you're interested in? Let me know. And so I text Coach Drink at about probably 11 p.m. that night, or about 10, 11. It was like, Coach, I think I'm ready to jump in, get it done. And so I just sent the edit to Coach Steeples the next morning because he had told me to sleep on the decision. So when I sent it to him, he was like, I guess you slept on the ride back, huh? And so he did that. And he was like, okay, well, I'm proud of you. They seem like they want you a lot, and the program should be headed in the right direction.
So, Makai, what was it like being a recruit this year? I mean, look, you committed pretty early, so maybe you wouldn't have taken a ton of these visits anyway. But, I mean, to not be able to go and see any of these campuses, and I would say, like, look, man, if you're good enough where people want to pay for you to go to college, like, go take 5 trips and see places and get treated like a king, because a lot of recruits find out when you get to campus and you're a player, like, maybe they're not quite as nice as they were when you were recruited, right? So, but what was it like going through this and not being able to take any of those trips and not being able to have that weekend in Columbia with all the committed guys that you probably would have had a couple weekends ago in a normal year?
It's just without being able to visit, there's a lot of coaches hitting you up, so they want to FaceTime more, they want to talk more because they can't get you down on campus. So they were really on me, like different schools, just everybody trying to get you and stuff. But with Coach Drink, them, like, you don't even have to be on campus to feel their energy. Like, our coaching staff, like, yeah, these some cool guys, even when you're on the phone with them.
Makai, obviously, you're from St. Louis, and that's been a big subject of discussion and focus for Missouri and recruiting over really forever. But especially this year, when Eli Drinkwitz said he's really prioritized St. Louis. I'm curious, what kind of an impact do you see his efforts having had on the area for your class and beyond?
I think he's done a great job, making us a priority, like he said he would. Like, he's not just getting the kids that want to stay in Missouri. He's making kids want to stay. And I think, especially for the future, with him getting Isaac early as the second commit in 2022, I think that was huge. And, that'll leave an impression on the rest of the recruits in the state.
All right, so Makai, I know you can't see the comments from people watching, but we've got some people asking questions, and Floyd wants to know who you pattern your game after. Like, is there a player, whether it's an NFL guy or a college guy, that you'd really like to say you play like?
Oh, for sure, Aaron Donald, for sure. That's my favorite player.
That's every defensive lineman wants to play like that guy.
He's the best.
And Jacob wants to know, and look, I know we know the answer to this question, but about enrolling early, or are you going to be enrolling early, or are you going to be coming in the summer?
I'll be coming in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Get that last enjoy that last semester of online class in St. Louis.
Yeah, I'll try. I really wanted to leave, but it's all right.
Well, Makai, you mentioned obviously wanting to play like Aaron Donald. I guess, give people an insight into your skill set and how you feel like you kind of fit into Mizzou's defensive scheme.
I think what I can bring is an automatic pass rush, especially for Mizzou. I think I can bring that ASAP, I obviously have to get stronger and, get in the system, learn the plays. But I think with the mix of their 3-4 and 4-3, I can fit in well playing anything from 0 to 4 tech.
So how does that work once you've signed? Are coaches allowed to kind of give you workout plans and stuff like that to help you kind of get ready, or does that all have to wait till the summer when you get on campus?
No, I just talked to them. I actually hit them up today. They said they'll send a workout plan, I think Friday or Saturday, and they want us to start working out Monday.
So you get a good 3 or 4 days off to enjoy being a college football player before it's back to work, huh?
Oh, no, I actually just came from a workout not too long ago. Like, I was just working out before this.
Yeah, I was going to say, you were mentioning, what needing to get stronger. I've seen on Twitter you put up some not half bad numbers in some of these lifts. So what are some of your lift maxes?
I'd say my bench press about 330, 340. Squat about 540, 550, somewhere in there. And deadlift, the whole gym. I don't know. I can deadlift a lot.
Wow.
Same, obviously.
I mean, Makai obviously is in the best shape of anyone on this show, so certainly impressive there. So, look, what are the next few months like for you? I mean, obviously you can be at home, but kind of what are you focused on these last few months in St. Louis before you do get to come up to Columbia next summer?
I'll be working out at least 4 times a week, and when I'm not lifting, I'll be, working on my technique, keeping my footwork together, staying in shape, and just getting ready for when I get there.
Hey, I want to good. Our viewers probably don't know this, but give me a good Brick Haley story from recruiting, because man, Brick Haley is. That dude's a character. Like, what's your funniest Brick Haley moment?
I don't even have this a moment. He's hilarious in general.
Yeah.
He's just a funny dude in general. He's funny.
Yeah. He is. Makai, one of the questions one of our viewers asks, and I know you touched on your skill set a little bit, but he's asking what you consider to be your biggest strength.
My ability to get after the quarterback. That's for sure my biggest strength. Like, I think I would say I have an advanced, pass rush arsenal for a high schooler, and I think I can bring that to the college level ASAP.
All right, so another one. One of the viewers says, "How big a factor was going to an SEC school for you?" And now, Makai, you're a little bit younger than me. You might not know there was a time Missouri wasn't in the SEC. But it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird to me that guys your age are obviously now. This is just an SEC school. This is just kind of how it's always been. But is playing in this conference a big selling point for Missouri?
I think. I always want. I used to didn't want to play in the SEC for real. I wanted to go to the Big 12, Pac-12. Pretty pass rushing and all that. Mm-hmm. But they say this is the closest thing to the NFL, and I wanted to play in that. And I actually got a story. The main reason I came to the SEC for real was my sophomore year. I was getting recruited by Georgia, and they told me, they was like, I'm not sure how your body will, stand up against those SEC double teams. We 6'6" across the board. How you think you would do? My coach told him he didn't just become undersized. He'd been that. And that since they told me that right there, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the SEC.
That's cool. One thing that another guy, Jake B, another viewer asked is if you're going to continue to kind of be vocal in recruiting guys in future classes to Mizzou like you have been with this class.
Oh, yeah, for sure, especially the St. Louis guys. We're going to try to get them for sure.
True wants to know what you're majoring in. You got any like, I know you're coming to play football, but I heard they make you go to class too. So what are you doing academically?
I'm not really sure yet. Something with communications, maybe like sports broadcasting or something like that.
Yeah.
You have the personality for it, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have you on as a co-host. I think that's an NCAA violation, though. So.
Yeah. Probably can't do that.
Yeah.
We've talked about you being close with a lot of guys in this class, but obviously you're teammates with one of Missouri's signees, and Taj Butts. So I was, wanted to give you a chance to kind of give us some insight into what you think he can bring to Mizzou.
Hey, Taj bring that thunder. Hey, a lot of people don't want to come up and hit Taj. He got the body of an SEC running back, 5'11", 220, and he fast. He got that breakaway speed. He cold. Taj is cold.
All right, Makai, just kind of want to wrap it up with you because we got your guy Tyler calling in a few minutes, and I know you've had a long day, but just kind of looking back on this whole process, I mean, has it sunk in that, hey, you're going to college, you're playing SEC football yet? Have you kind of had time to process that whole thing, or do you think there's going to be a time later where you kind of look back on the whole process?
Probably when it's time for me to leave my high school, leave all my brothers behind, it's going to be like, dang, it's over. It's a whole nother level I'm on now. So.
Yep. All right. Well, Makai, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. I know it's been a busy day, and I know a lot of Missouri fans were glad to hear from you. So congratulations again, and I'm sure we will see plenty of you over the next 4 years.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
that
Makai.
is Makai Wingo from DeSmet Jesuit Prep, I think is actually the technical name of the school. Whatever. We played football at DeSmet. Defensive tackle, and obviously was Missouri's first commitment. And look, I had reached out and asked a couple people. I said, Sean Williams and a couple other people. I said, we want to get a couple of the signees on the show. Who's going to be good at this? I think Makai fit the bill, man. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he's a really, really fun personality, great guy to talk to. And, that shone through before, we talked to him before we interviewed him, when he would just, like he said, get on Twitter and reach out to all these other, commits and or targets of Missouri's, and, formed a relationship with a guy in Arden Walker who I don't think he had ever met. So, yeah, I think he'll be a good ambassador for the program for sure.
So once again, just hey, if we've got people kind of jumping in and joining us midway through, this is the 573 report brought to you by 573tees.com. Today, National Signing Day. Missouri signed 21 guys. That includes Oklahoma offensive line transfer EJ Ndoma Ogar, who we kind of knew about a few months ago, but he was announced today as part of the class. Tennessee running back B.J. Harris did not sign. Garden City Junior College defensive lineman Shamar Pearl, who committed to Missouri a couple years ago out of high school and then committed again, did not sign today. That does not mean they won't sign. This signing period goes through Friday. Eli Drinkwitz dodged a little bit the question of whether they expect anything else this week. But there is another signing period in February. Missouri's going to add 5 to 7 more guys, and those two certainly could be a part of it. Those of you who are jumping on some of the comments, I think most of you have been here. But, again, we just talked to Makai Wingo from DeSmet. We are going to talk to East St. Louis quarterback Tyler Macon. He's going to be calling in at 8 o'clock. That's kind of the second part of the show. And then when we're done talking to Tyler and all that, we'll wrap that up. So certainly when Tyler comes on, look, you guys are the ones that want to hear from these kids. So we can talk to them mostly anytime, at least as long as they're high school players. Once they become college players, we'll never talk to them. But as long as they're high school players, we can talk to them. So when Tyler does come on, please feel free to ask questions. I mean, obviously be respectful and all that. They're taking their time, so we'll pick and choose what to put on. But feel free to comment, questions, all that. So, yeah, I don't know, Mitch. I feel like we've broken this class down, but it is a 2-hour show, and people probably are coming and going a little bit. So, I mean, is there anywhere in this class we look and say they need something else here to finish this class?
Yeah, I think you start at offensive line. They have two guys there in Connor Tollison and EJ Domo-Agar. And Drinkwitz did say technically they would count Zeke Powell towards this class, but he's already played and actually started every game this year, I believe. But anyway, I think you want one more guy there. Maybe another defensive lineman. We'll see what happens with Shamar Pearl. If he ends up as a part of this class, then maybe you're good there. Probably another defensive back. I know that there's, they've pursued Jadarius Perkins. He's a JUCO guy. Dante Balfour is a high school guy. They've been looking to add another defensive back. And I think possibly if you have another spot, if you find a wide receiver transfer, that might make sense. If you find a linebacker transfer, maybe that makes sense. But other than that, I think they're pretty well set.
Maybe they could get Nick Bolton to transfer back to Missouri for his senior season. That would
be better than anyone. I mean, that would be a big pickup.
That would legitimately be adding maybe the best linebacker in the entire country for next year. Sir Mufflebuns, who has been on a lot of our shows since we started doing this back in, August or September, whenever we started, says, are you going to bring more signees into the show? Enjoyed that feature. And we may. Today obviously worked out with it being signing day. We had Cornell Mann on one. Like, we would like to have more guests, and now that we know how to do it and we know it works, it is something we can do. It just has to work out with everybody's schedule. And I'm going to be honest, it also has to work out when you're talking about high school kids, high school athletes. Like, it has to work out. It has to be somebody with the personality that's comfortable doing it, because like we do a lot of these interviews and get a lot of 3-word answers, and that's not going to make for a very good show, and it's not honestly going to make the kid look super great. So, we'll pick and choose, but it's definitely something we could do. We might have to have Connor Tollison on to defend his hairstyle, I guess. But
yeah, we didn't even talk about the fact that apparently I knew this, but he's bowled multiple 300 games and apparently is a scratch golfer. So
yeah, well,
heck of hand-eye coordination for an offensive lineman.
Drinkwitz did say since he couldn't take an official visit, that he can't actually verify that either of those things are true. I mean, like right now, I could tell Eli Drinkwitz I've bowled a 300 game and I'm a scratch golfer. Neither is remotely true, but I could say it.
Yeah, that's true. I only have Tollison's word. I wrote it about him back in like the spring, but I can't confirm with my own eyes. But I can confirm that you are not a scratch golfer, nor am I. Neither of us are scratch golfers.
I was a scratch drinker the last day we played, though. I did an excellent job on that front. So, look, I just kind of thought about this after talking to Makai Wingo there for a few minutes, and we talked to Ennis Rakestraw and JC Carlise on the Zoom call yesterday, and I know you're going to write something about them later on in the week. But one thing that I've noticed, and look, I'm not going to say they're all really good interviews, because I'm sure there are some younger kids on this team who aren't great interviews yet, but Drinkwitz seems to have a lot of guys that seem pretty comfortable and have some personality, and I don't know if that's necessarily a thing you recruit, but it is refreshing for guys who do what we do to talk to some guys who can talk.
Yeah. I don't know if that's like a Drinkwitz thing. I mean, like, Carlisle was committed to the old staff, and I believe, they started kind of recruiting Rakestraw, but they were both awesome interviews. Luke Griffin's a young guy who was a really good interview a couple weeks ago. Obviously, Makai Wingo and we've just mentioned Connor Tollison are both really good talkers. So, that's the best for us. We love when, someone has a personality and will be, for lack of a better word, interesting in our interviews.
Yeah, anytime anybody asks me who's your favorite player, who's your favorite recruit, who's your favorite anything, I'm like, the ones that are good interviews. My favorite player in this class, I'm going to ask before I pronounce his name. Do you know how to pronounce the junior college defensive tackle's first name?
Realis? I think it's real. I think it's Realis.
Realis George. I love the name. He's got a good story. He was a fullback at Miami, then number one fullback in the country out of high school, right? Which I don't know. Maybe there's only 12 of those guys, but still being number one of 12 is really good. Went to Miami, ended up going JUCO, signed with Missouri as a defensive tackle. I think he's a guy that we were talking at the beginning of the show that guys who commit later, closer to signing day, get a ton of attention. But I thought it was interesting that, Drinkwitz was asked, who are some guys that you think are underrated in this class? And usually a coach is going to do one of two things. He's either going to not answer the question at all, or he's going to list off legitimately every player in the signing class. And now Drinkwitz did say, look, I'm not going to hit everybody. I'm probably going to leave somebody out. But he did mention 4 or 5 guys. And Jonathan Jones out of Texas, the defensive end, was one of those guys. I know that he mentioned Damian Wilson, linebacker out of North Carolina, he mentioned. So I liked that. Let's be honest, man. I just like covering a coach who answers questions.
Yeah, for sure. I know he mentioned Darius Jackson, the corner, and Gavin Makai, the tight end, who committed shortly after Makai Wingo. And so, yeah, to your point, guys that have been in the fold for a long time, who I think people have kind of forgotten about a little bit. Also, I did want to point out that another reason to like Realis is that he definitely looks like he's about 45 years old, and he might be.
Right.
I have no way to confirm that he's not.
Realis and I could go out in Columbia, and people would think we were the same age.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Another guy that's pretty intriguing to me in this class is Davion Sistrunk, because he's played 2 years of football. His rival's profile picture is a basketball picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's apparently he's got great hops, according to Eli Drinkwitz. There's definitely something to be said for just finding someone with measurables with the potential like that, and then obviously you'll have plenty of time to teach them kind of the basics. And actually, one thing Ryan Walters said earlier this season, it was about J.C. Carlisle, that really actually intrigued me. Something I had never thought of before is he was like, yeah, he had never played corner before, so he had no bad habits. So then he just started working with David Gibbs, and it was pretty easy because he was a good athlete. We just told him what to do, and he remembered. Versus some of the guys who are used to just getting by off of being better athletes, but maybe have some habits that take some time to get broken. So perhaps you could see that as well with Davion Sistrunk.
I feel like being a coach would be really easy if you just told people what to do and they did it. Like being a parent.
That would be nice.
Being a parent would be easy. A teacher.
I do think sometimes people think that is what being a coach is like, where it's like Madden and you just press the right buttons and call the right plays and then it works out. Whereas actually you're dependent on 18 to 22-year-olds to execute.
The part that frustrates me is when the coach has clearly told guys, go out, okay, on this play, miss tackles and let them score. They shouldn't do that. I don't know why they do that ever.
Just call the touchdown play every time.
Right. Matt is joining us a little bit late, asking about Shamar Pearl and BJ Harrison. The short answer is we don't know for sure. It became obvious kind of mid-afternoon that they probably weren't signing today. Drinkwitz can't specifically address kids who didn't sign, so Mitch did ask him, do you expect any more this week? And he basically said, not really, but you never know because it's recruiting. But he said, there's nobody I know we're getting, but I don't not know we're getting people, I think is basically how he put it. We think, based on what we've heard, we think there certainly is still a desire for Pearl and Harris to come to Missouri, a mutual interest. I don't know what the reasons they didn't sign today are. That obviously we did try to reach out to both of them, didn't get in touch with either one of them, and that's not a huge shock since they didn't sign. But those are guys that we will keep on the commitment list. There are times where something like this happens and we have information, hey, take that guy off the commitment list. It's not going to happen. And we don't have that information with those guys. So we still, for now, are going to have them on Missouri's commitment list. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, here's the other guy that we should have talked about his name. I saw Dave Matter tweet that the defensive back out of Florida is the first Zaquan ever to play for Missouri. Zaquan Reeves.
That seems like a safe guess. Yeah, for those who haven't seen, he does have a Z, an X, and a Q all in his first name, which is pretty impressive.
His first name starts with ZX. Do you think Zaquan Reeves has ever been involved in anything where he was not last alphabetically?
Yeah, I mean, luckily that's his first name, but yeah,
Right.
no,
But if
that's
they
for
did
sure.
that-
But he does apparently go by Snoop, which I appreciate. I will henceforth, at least in writing, be referring to him as Snoop.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm a little old to be calling somebody Snoop like on a Zoom call or something. I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I'm not sure I'm really cool enough to call
That's
anybody
fine.
Zaquan
Yeah.
either, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm just more looking out for myself in the spelling department.
yeah. Well, the truth is, I still call Xavier Pinson X on most Zoom calls simply because I
That's
think
what
I know
everyone
it's
else
supposed
calls
to be Xavier, but like it looks like Xavier, and I'm afraid I'm going to call him Xavier, so I just call him X.
Everyone calls him X, like everyone. So it's just it's hard not to, because you'll get on there with Conso and he'll say X this, X this, X that, and then you're that's just kind of what's on your mind.
It's because nobody knows how to pronounce his name. Snoop STP says that Zaquan has an awesome name, so he has a fellow Snoop on the 573 report. Once again, before we're joined by Tyler Macon, I want to tell you guys 573tees.com. Go check them out. If you go through the link on our site on the show page, you can get a 10% discount by being a PowerMizzou.com viewer, subscriber, reader, whatever the case. But if you go through that link, you can get a 10% discount. They've got hoodies and shirts and all kinds of Drinkwitz stuff. They came out with one after the Bragging Rights game that said Crying Illini with 3 L's for Illinois' 3 straight losses. So, like, they turn these things out quickly. They come up with new designs. They're topical. I think you guys would look, just go buy it for yourself and put it in your stocking. Like I was going to say buy it for somebody else, but just go buy it for yourself. Your wife or girlfriend doesn't have to get you something because she doesn't know what you want. Just go buy yourself a shirt and put it in her stocking and tell her, or put it in your stocking and tell her thank you after Christmas. So I guess well, I was going to say we could talk about the football game this weekend, but we're coming real close to 8 o'clock, and I don't want to like get that started and then have to cut it off for Tyler Macon. So after we talk to Tyler, we will wrap up with just a few minutes of Missouri and Mississippi State and all that. We will get to it. Finish, but we do want to make sure that obviously when Tyler jumps in here, that we get straight to him and don't make him sit around and wait. I'm sure he's had a long day. Finish strong. When do you guys think about the running back situation for next year? He follows up and says he meant what do you guys think about the running back? So he doesn't specifically want to know when you think about it, because the answer would honestly be very rarely. The answer would be when you ask. But
right, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so Larry Roundtree is going to leave. He declared for this. He said he's going to the Senior Bowl, and if you go to the Senior Bowl, you're not planning on coming back. And frankly, he should go. He's proven all he needs to prove at the college level. So Tyler Beatty. I think Tyler Beatty. I know he's not the prototypical SEC, first and second down back. I think he can play. He's very capable of playing more than he is right now. And your quote unquote change of pace back is just a little bit more of a bruiser. But, Beatty's the one who's on the field more often. Think like Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, maybe. I know that's, obviously that may be too complimentary to Tyler Beatty, but like from a skill set perspective. So the question is who is kind of that second back, because Elijah Young has a similar skill set to Beatty, and he will play, I'm sure, next season. He'll get a little bit more reps, but I do think there is a little bit of an opening. Maybe it's filled by Taj Butts, who Makai Wingo talked about. I don't know, maybe someone else who to kind of be that guy who he runs between the tackles a little bit more often in short yardage type situations.
Yeah, I guess there's always the possibility, Simi Bakari could take a step forward. Dawson Downing comes back next year. But I'm interested to see, because Taj Butts is a little different profile than the backs Missouri has. And I just did get a direct message from Tyler Macon. He's going to be jumping on here momentarily, so we will add him. But, Butts is a guy that, like you said, he brings a different skill set. So Tyler Beatty is not a guy that's going to get 27 carries, or I think didn't Roundtree have 37 in one game this year?
He did. Yeah.
So that's not going to be Tyler Beatty. He's not getting 37 carries, but he will get more than he does this year. I think that Elijah Young jumps in, and again, Taj Butts, maybe B.J. Harris, any of those guys could figure in. Simi Bakari, who knows. So, hey, I'm clicking back and forth between like 2 or 3 windows here. I just want to make sure that we're not sitting and making Tyler wait. So we're not yet. He is not yet here, at least that I see. So when he is, we will certainly add him to the broadcast. So if you have questions for Tyler Macon, I know we've got a couple in the queue. Feel free to ask. Feel free to put them in the chat. And after we ask Tyler some of our, Pulitzer Prize winning questions, we will get to some of your less than Pulitzer Prize winning questions and ask him. Greg with the shout out for 573tees.com, and Greg has been on a lot of our shows here lately and appreciate that. So they do have some good Chiefs gear. I might have a Chiefs shirt from them. Wow, I was just looking at Greg's icon for a minute. I seriously thought his avatar picture was a picture with me.
I did too. It really looks like that, actually. Does kind of look like you in the hat.
Hang on just a second. I just got a message from Tyler that said, it said message invalid. So I'm going to try to send him or address invalid. I'm trying to send him the invite again, and we'll see.
All right, I'll talk while you figure that out. You just wave your hands at me or something if you're good. I'll read a question because Floyd has a question here that I think is a decent one. He says one of the areas Georgia had a massive talent advantage was at wide receiver. Lovett can be a future speed guy, but what about the monster vertical mismatch DGB type? Is there one on the roster? First of all, this is not a shot at you, Floyd, because you've had some good questions tonight. But I do sometimes get I chuckle when people say, how about where is the Denario Alexander on this roster or the DGB on this roster? It's those are rare guys. There's a reason there. One was the number 1 recruit in the country, and one, basically shattered the single season Missouri receiving record. You're not going to have one of those on the roster every year. I do think there is a bit of a hole at deep threat. Now, Lovett, just because he maybe lines up, is a smaller guy, lines up inside, he could still take the top off of a defense with his speed. I know one person I've heard him compared to is Jeff Thomas, who is obviously a good deep receiver. But as far as a guy who has both downfield and, ability and the size to go up and get a jump ball, Towski Dub, that's kind of the one area he's been pretty good. Could you maybe upgrade there potentially in the transfer portal? I don't know. But I do think that, that's probably been his strength, is that making those kind of 50-50 catches. I don't know that he's the greatest route runner ever. But so, do I think Missouri could stand to add someone in the receiving room during the offseason? Probably so. But if you're looking at, Jalen Knox, Tusky Dove, maybe Kiki Chisholm comes back, Dominic Lovett, Barrett Bannister, I think that's a fair, and then maybe, you hope J.J. Hester, Jay Macklin takes a step like that. That's not a group where there's no hope.
Right. So I'm messaging back and forth with Tyler. There are some technical issues. He's trying to update an app real quick. If that doesn't work, I gave him our phone number. Hopefully he's going to call in and we can do it that way. We can at least talk to him. But trying to work things out, certainly. I knew that we had gone too far with the technology all working for everyone, so we had to hit a speed bump. It's not a show if we don't hit some sort of a speed bump, right? So we'll see. I'll keep an eye on it and see if he does manage to get in the show. But, Mitch, we were texting earlier this week, the last regular season football game is coming up, and even though they've played fewer games than they've played in any other year I've ever covered, it seems like it's lasted 6 times as long.
Oh, it kind of has. Because fall camp practices didn't start that much later than normal, and in that period before then, still, it was like we were covering, football, because every day you had, it was really probably more intensive than the usual start of the season, because every day it was, are they going to play? So, and the football team, I think, is in now week 21 of practices. So, yeah, that's a long season.
Okay. Hang on. Okay, so now on the phone, we've got Tyler Macon on the phone. Tyler, are you there, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, appreciate it, man. Appreciate you calling in, and apologize for the issues we had with technology there, but we're gonna do it just kind of over the phone, and I want to say, first of all, congratulations on signing your letter of intent with Missouri today, and just After the recruiting process, after so long being committed, what was today like for you? What did it kind of feel like to get it done?
It felt great because I've been committed to Mizzou since March. So just to get those papers signed and just to get it about the way, it's just exciting for the future.
Yeah. What was it like getting to do it with a teammate of yours, a high school teammate, which probably 3 or 4 months ago you didn't think was going to happen?
It feels great because as soon as I got my Mizzou offer, I knew I was committing. So when he got his, I was just trying to bribe him, and persuade him to come and join me. But when he committed to Arizona State, that didn't stop me from still trying to get him to flip. So I was very excited when he did decide to commit.
Yeah. What was it like in East St. Louis today? What did you guys do? Were you at the school, or what kind of celebration did you have?
First we had a signing ceremony it was me and 4 other guys. Then after that we had a trunk party, but everybody was social distance.
Okay, good deal. And yeah, I know East St. Louis is a program that pumps out, multiple Division I players every year. Just being a part of that tradition and playing for Coach Sunkett, how much does that mean to you and Dominic and all these guys that are coming out this year?
I'm not originally from East St. Louis, so just to know that that's like a diehard football town, and then they gave me the key to the streets to their city, it just means a lot because of the trust and belief that they had in me from the beginning. So I couldn't fail to let them down.
So I'm going to ask you kind of the obvious question. What was it about Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri that convinced you pretty early on in the process to jump on board and stay committed to him the whole time?
Just his philosophy of the offense because he's an offensive minded guy, so I just believed in everything he said. And yeah.
What have you thought, just being able to watch his offense this season, about A, how they've played this year, and B, kind of how you'll fit into that when you get to campus?
I'm very excited from what I saw early this year because the offense looks really confident, and I feel like that's a offense that I can produce in.
Talking with Mizzou quarterback signee Tyler Macon, who sent in his letter of intent earlier today and is a member of Missouri's 20th ranked recruiting class. And Tyler, I want to ask you one thing, and then we're going to ask you some of the questions our viewers have for you. But you've made the decision. Illinois got its high school football season pushed back to the spring, and you've made the decision to go ahead and enroll early and come to Mizzou. You and Dominic both, which means you're not going to be able to play your senior season in high school. I mean, how tough a decision was that, and what kind of went into you guys both making that choice?
I originally really wanted to stay because we pretty much brought our whole offense back. Besides, a few guys like Antonio Johnson and then our lineman Javante Sprang. So I was just really excited to go back to back, but unfortunately, due to COVID, we didn't have that chance to.
Yeah, and so you will be. I guess it's just probably about 3 weeks from now, 3 or 4 weeks, you'll be moving up to Columbia?
Yes, sir, 29 days.
Okay, all right. So it's your last month in East St. Louis, and then you will be on campus for spring football and all that. So we do, like I said, we got a bunch of people. We got a couple hundred people, all Missouri fans watching on here. So I just want to kind of ask you some of the questions they had for you. And Mitchell wants to know, how did winning a state championship prepare you to kind of play winning football at the next level in the SEC, do you think?
I think it really molded me because in my life I've only lost 3 times, and that actually 2 came in high school and 1 in Little League. So I've always been a winner and always had winning around me. So, and I don't plan on starting to lose in college. So I'm just gonna bring that mentality to Mizzou and try to breathe that up in the rest of the guys there.
Now hold on, how many years have you been playing football?
Since I was 5.
And you've lost 3 games that whole time?
Yes, sir.
Man. So do you even know, how do you act when you lose? Are you a bad loser, or do you take it okay?
I think I take it pretty. I actually take it pretty heavy, but I know in college that that there's like good guys everywhere, so I can't really have that mindset. I just gotta play to the best of my ability I can to try to win that game.
Right. Floyd was asking that Mizzou's had a pretty long line of good quarterback play going all the way back to like Brad Smith, Chase Daniel, Blaine Gabbert. Did that factor in your decision at all, or not really because it was a different coaching staff?
Not really, because growing up I really wasn't a Mizzou fan. I was really a Oregon fan, so okay. I really wasn't educated up on the Mizzou history.
Okay. Then another question. What about just the thoughts of seeing Connor Bazelak play and coming in and competing with him for the job next year? I mean, do you know have you gotten a chance to know Connor much at all, or maybe not since you haven't had many chances to come to campus?
No, sir. I never really got to meet Connor.
Okay. So be kind of finding out on the fly there when you get to campus. What do you think if somebody asked you to describe your game, like what sets you apart as a quarterback? What do you think you do really well?
I feel like that I'm an improviser. You know, like when the pocket breaks down, I'm still a pass first guy. But you know, if it comes down to running, I bring that to it also. So that's why I think I'm a dynamic dual threat.
Okay, one of our viewers, True, wants to know if there's a quarterback that you watch and try to take parts of his game or try to model your game after it all.
Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers.
Those would be two pretty good ones. Definitely. I know a lot of times guys get labeled as a dual threat quarterback, and they want to make sure, like, look, I'm a quarterback. I throw the football. I mean, is that how you describe yourself? Pass first, but you can run if you need to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. We were talking to Makai Wingo a little bit ago on the show about just all the St. Louis guys and how vocal you all were with each other, and then even kind of branching out with guys in Indiana and Colorado and getting them to join the class. What kind of led to that out of you and Makai and some of the other guys to really try to get a bunch of other good players to come in with you?
You know, it's just that trust factor. Just like we had trust to Coach Drink, we had, you know, we were trying to recruit those guys every day and talking to them guys every day so they can join us and just believe the future of Mizzou that we do.
Yeah. Jake is watching and want to know, other than Coach Drinkwitz, which coaches on the staff were you really talking to during recruiting and kind of developing a relationship with?
Me and Coach Looper had a pretty strong relationship, and me and Coach Hampton also.
Okay, and yeah, I know Coach Hampton also does coach the quarterbacks here. So, I guess, Tyler, what do you do over the next month before you get to come to Columbia?
Right now I'm training three times a week with my quarterback trainer. Then those other 2 days I'm training with lifting weights.
Mm-hmm. And last thing, this was the last question I asked Makai too. I mean, you start playing football at 5 years old, and the goal all along, right, is to play college football and then hopefully beyond. Now that goal has kind of been realized, you send in that letter of intent. Has it kind of sunk in, or do you think it's going to take a little while to realize, hey, this whole process is over and you're about to start the next step?
I think it has, you know, because me enrolling early, it's like me starting to come into the real world as a young adult. So at that aspect, I think it has hit me. But, you know, I still got another goal that I want to achieve, and that's to make it to the NFL one day. So on that note, I'm still not satisfied with what I've done yet. But I'm grateful, though.
Got it. Well, Tyler, it's been a big day, long day for you, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and working through a couple of the technical issues there and calling in. I know Missouri fans are glad to hear from you, and I'm sure we will be talking to you down the road when you come up to Columbia.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tyler Macon, Missouri quarterback. Commitment there, calling in, and certainly appreciate him taking the time to speak with us. Again, we tried to do the video. It didn't necessarily work quite as we had planned with Tyler's technology, but that's okay. We're going to dial back up Mitchell Forde now. Basically, when I got Tyler on the phone, it hung up on Mitchell. So we're going to call Mitchell back now and add him back to the show and let him participate again. All right. Hey, Mitch. Yeah, we decided to allow you back in the show now. So thanks for hanging out.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging out and coming back. You missed talking to Tyler Macon, but look, I don't know. As soon as I answered the call from him, you just disappeared. So,
Yeah. See, and also there was actually a minute there where I didn't know if it was you who had disappeared or me. So I just kind of kept talking. It took me a few minutes until my YouTube stream cut up. It took me about 20 seconds to realize I was the one who was gone. So.
And you were just randomly talking to yourself. So
yeah, I was just kind of rambling.
Well, that's cool. Appreciate you. Appreciate you trying to carry the show while you were unclear. So, all right. So look, it's 8:15. We've been doing this for an hour and 40 minutes. We've talked every angle of this signing class, and we've talked to Wingo, talked to Macon. So let's finish this up with just a little bit. There's still a football season going on, which. It doesn't seem like mid-December because we're still playing football games. Basketball games are going on. Signing day happened. Like, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what date it is, anything. But Missouri plays at Mississippi State on Saturday in a game that really – like, look, 5-5 is a good year, right? But 6-4, this is a big game for Missouri.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like Mississippi State's been playing better lately, but it's a team Missouri should probably beat. They haven't been favored in many games this season, so you'd like to win that. It's a unique matchup. Obviously, the air raid presents its own challenges. I actually was looking up this week. Mississippi State averages 23 rushing yards a game this year, which is impossibly low. That is far and away the lowest of any.
On like
team.
How many carries? Like 7?
I think it's like 16. So they don't run the ball a ton, but they also are bad at it. No team has averaged that few rushing yards per game or even close since at least like 2008. That was as far back as I looked. But Mississippi State's defense is kind of unique as well. They play their defensive coordinator comes from the Rocky Long School out at San Diego State, and Eli Drinkwitz and some of the players talked about some of the unique looks it presents. They held Georgia to 8 rushing yards, which we watched Georgia last week. That seems hard to do. They had 316 against Missouri.
I remember a carry where Georgia was held to 8 rushing yards. Hey, Mitch, I got bad news. After the Macon interview, Bob Douglas commented that he was a great kid. I think he was talking about Tyler Macon and not you. I'm not positive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Would feel a little weird if he called me a kid, but also he's allowed to support other people. That's fine.
He's allowed to have wandering eyes.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, Mississippi State. I mean, I don't know. They're 2-7. They've really only been in the news for 2 reasons. One, they beat LSU when we thought LSU was still good, and 2, Mike Leach is their coach, and he's always in the news. But yeah, I was a little surprised. I think I saw this opened at 2.5.
Yeah, I was surprised as well. I think it might have even opened at 1.5. I was predicting it'd be more like 5.5 in Missouri's favor. I mean, maybe partially has to do with the fact that Missouri did not fare very well against Georgia, and also is somewhat shorthanded. Eli Drinkwitz did say this week that the entire defensive line is questionable, which is.
I was amazed. Speaking of like coaches that say things, I was amazed. He just flat out said, he said, it's probably a good thing we're playing the team we're playing, because if we were playing a team that ran the ball a lot, I don't think we could hold up. Because
that was remarkable.
He knows he can say that, and Mike Leach is still not going to run the football.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they can't. Seriously, I don't think they've run for 100 yards in a game this year.
Wow.
So yeah, but yeah, that was actually really phenomenal. That you do not hear that every week.
No.
So yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, like, I do think I think I don't know. I think it's just kind of gonna. I anticipate this being a bit of a grind. I think it's just kind of going to be a low scoring game.
Yeah, and look, Mississippi State played a game with 49 players earlier this year too, so it's not like they're in phenomenal shape and everything's good in Starkville. Okay, I got clarification on the important issue. Greg Shackelford's profile picture actually is of me when he bought me a beer at King Jerry Lawler's at the Liberty Bowl. So I'm
stunned you don't remember that.
Yeah, that was a night, man. That was a night. It was a good night. I feel like that was one of our better nights as a site.
That was. Yeah, we had a great time. It was great to meet a lot of people, including the King.
Yeah, the King Jerry Lawler. Oof, man, I tell you what, that's an experience. So bowl games. Speaking of bowl games, I feel like that's a good place to end. Eli Drinkwitz said they're going to play in one. He said it really wasn't a discussion. If we get a chance, we're going to play. here's what we know, almost for certain. Missouri is going to play in Florida, and it is going to play on or right after right after New Year's Day, because the playoffs are New Year's Day, right?
Yeah. So the Citrus Bowl is New Year's Day, and the Gator and Outback are both January 2nd.
Okay. So we are down to those 3 games in all look, weird things happen, right? I mean, maybe Lou Perkins.
I was going to say, are we down to those 3 games for sure? I mean, I guess. I don't know, but I'll take your word for it.
I won't say for sure, but I've done some research, and that is certainly the expectation that it's going to be one of those 3 games. So, look, Lou Perkins could call the Outback Bowl and promise to sell 70% of the tickets to former Kansas fans, and they could take 0-9 Kansas. You know, who knows? Weird things happen. But assuming that doesn't happen, I expect the Citrus, the Outback, or the Gator. The Citrus Bowl is the most prestigious of those bowls. It is basically right after the New Year's Six bowls are done. The Citrus Bowl gets the top remaining SEC team. So 2 things come into play there. First of all, Missouri being in the mix for that will require 4 SEC teams to get into that New Year's Six, which would mean Florida would have to get into the New Year's Six, even coming off back-to-back losses to LSU and Alabama. I don't know for sure if that would happen.
Yeah, I haven't mapped out, who all the New Year's Six teams will be. But yes, it would seem, I mean, without getting 2 teams in the playoff, which seems virtually certain at this point. Right. So that, Alabama will be in the playoff, and then, you have A&M will almost certainly be in the New Year's Six. Georgia/Florida, at least one will be in the New Year's Six. But it would be kind of surprising to me if all 3. I mean, you'd have, then more than half of the teams in the New Year's Six bowls. Actually, no, that's bad math, but close. 3 out of the 8 in the non-playoff bowls would be from the SEC. That might be a little overloaded, but I don't know. Like I said, haven't mapped it out. Don't know with this season especially. Don't know what other cases schools have a compelling case. I think the kind of group of bowl games under the Citrus Bowl is more likely, which includes both the Outback and the Gator, and then there's some other bowls in that group as well. I think like the Liberty, the Music City, the Texas. I don't know.
And there's one other one. The Gator Bowl would be against an ACC team, probably a Miami, North Carolina type of team. That's actually more attractive to me than the Outback, which would be against probably Iowa, Northwestern, maybe Wisconsin or Indiana. Wisconsin would be okay. I think Wisconsin's like 2-2 this year. But I don't know. It just Northwestern, Missouri played them in a bowl game. It's not exciting. Iowa, Missouri played them in a bowl game. It's not that exciting. Indiana, it's okay, but I mean, they don't have Michael Penix. I don't know how much juice you get out of that. But look, I've heard Missouri really likes the Outback Bowl, and I think if they have the opportunity to go, certainly they would not turn that down.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, both are very solid options, nationally televised games, and you get to travel to Florida, which is great. I agree, though. Just it's not saying, the ACC is more appealing than the Big Ten, but the 2 potential matches in the ACC seem more fun to me because Miami, you've got a program with some historical cachet that Missouri has not played any time remotely recently, to my knowledge.
Right. They played them in, I think, the late 80s. I went to the game at Faurot Field, and Missouri lost 55-7.
Oh, okay. Well,
it was a poor game.
Hopefully this time it would go better. And then the late 80s was not a great time for Missouri football. And then you've got North Carolina. Like that would be North Carolina would be a bad matchup for Missouri. They just ran for 600 yards in a game, but there would be so many points scored because North Carolina scores a lot and gives up a ton.
Yeah. Well, I feel Stuart West's comment is the best place to end this show. Dan Mullen should be made to stay home for New Year's. I agree. Dan Mullen is the worst. We don't like him. He will never be a guest on the 573 report. We'll say that. So
that'll show him.
Yeah. Thanks to Makai, Wingo, and Tyler Macon for joining us on this show, and appreciate them kind of working. Tyler certainly working around the technology issues and still making an effort to get in touch with us and talk to you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that part of it. I hope you enjoyed the coverage all day. Thanks to Sean Williams and Mitch for the work all day long, all year long, really on this class. Look, it starts over. We know our assignment is the 2022 class. We'll get there. But we might have a couple other things to do first. So thanks again to 573Ts. Go to 573ts.com, buy yourself a T-shirt, and wear it around the house when Missouri plays Mississippi State, and you join us for game day on Saturday. So, Mitch, I know you got a couple things coming later this week. Just kind of give people a heads up what you got going before game day.
Yeah, let's see. I'll write something based off Eli Drinkwitz's press conference tomorrow morning, and then writing a story about the two true freshmen starting at cornerback, Hennis Rakestraw and J.C. Carlisle. We touched on them a little bit earlier. Kind of two true freshmen starting at corner against an air raid offense, somewhat unique. And then we'll have coverage from the basketball game Friday night, the Prairie A&M Panthers, which I now know should be a great one. And then I'll have the preview for the football game up at some point, and then we'll cover that. So.
All right, good deal. We'll have a chamber on Friday. We'll have some recruiting information. We'll be here with you all day Saturday. Appreciate all you guys joining us. Before you log off, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do all those things. Tell everybody what we're doing here. Maybe they'll come check us out. We'll talk to you later on.